Tales from a Jurassic World, Season 1, Episode 0, Fishenden Falls. The woods were quiet and peaceful, the tall trees and logs silhouetted in the vivid white moonlight, piercing the gaps between them. The night was cold and sharp, with fog rising from the ground and covering everything throughout the woodland in a murky film. Things were strangely silent, with the gentle breeze of the wind and the occasional hoot of an owl the only thing to intersect between the almost ominous weight of the silence which hung in the air. There was a gentle crunch and the fog was temporarily separated as a boot pressed down onto a twig underneath it.
Come on, Brown. The lake is a 5-minute walk in this direction.
US Fish and Wildlife Service agent Ben Morrison continued to walk deeper into the tree line, using a bright handheld torch to look through the trees as he continued to wander deeper into the vegetation. Behind him, Agent Lucy Brown followed. Both were dressed in US Fish and Wildlife Service uniforms, with heavy jackets over them, and both were equipped with duty belts which featured walkie-talkies and other equipment. The pair continued to walk deeper into the woodland, twigs snapping around them as they continued to carve a path through the undergrowth.
Have you been to this part of California before?
I think I came to a festival here a few years ago, perhaps. It was a long time ago. I haven't been here in a while, and it's definitely a little more overgrown than I remember.
You see any tracks around here? I know they believe that T-Rexes were hunting near here not too long ago.
No, we should be fine. The service has been studying the migration pattern of the animals, and it looks like the carnivores have begun to move further out again. I don't think the Rexes will be a problem.
Maybe not, but we were called here for a reason. What was the report again?
Big creatures moving in the night. Strange lights seen out around them. I think if anything, this operation is going to be a case of identifying and stopping poachers, not dealing with deadly animals.
I sure hope so.
As the duo continued further, they emerged by a small lake, complete with a stream running off further into the woodland. A wooden notice board could be spotted next to them, with a few warnings from the government and their dino tracker service, alongside a couple of species profiles for animals which used to occupy the area. As Morrison studied the notice board, his eyes narrowed, and a frown crossed his face.
Curious to see velociraptors out here. Granted, there are these 3 missing people, but I'd expect a little more chaos. I wonder where they've gone.
Maybe they migrated with the Rexes?
Perhaps. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a little human help. Dinosaurs certainly seem to have become a lot more desirable since Dr. Malcolm's speech. Let's head down by the water to take a closer look.
Morrison and Brown followed a little pathway which led down onto some softer ground around the perimeter of the lake. As they were walking along it, they could see rocks, pebbles, driftwood and other debris adorning the shores of the lake. There was nothing particularly out of the ordinary until they spotted it. A trail of what appeared to be footprints from some type of large animal leading into the woodland in front of them. Morrison shone the light into the woods and then motioned for Brown to stay back, reaching down to detach his radio from his belt as he brought it up to his mouth.
Control, this is Morrison. Let the Glover County Sheriff's Office know we might have something at Fishenden Falls. Could be related to the missing persons case. We'll investigate further. Morrison out.
He raised the torch again and shone it into the woodland. As he began to move from tree to tree, illuminating shrubbery and other vegetation which was deep within the woodland, a couple of lights suddenly began to shine back at him from deeper into the woods.
What the hell is that?
There were a couple of deep, low impacts as the lights began to get closer to Brown and Morrison. The duo began to step back as the lights got closer and closer, and then suddenly they were accompanied by deep, guttural noises that could only come from huge animals as the light intensified.
What are they?
Morrison turned, grabbing Brown, and the two sprinted back up the path, diving into cover next to some trees as they turned back to face towards where the lights were now staying close to the tree line. The lights began to move along the tree line, intermittently stopping. Twigs snapped and snort-like sounds could be heard as they slowly worked their way up towards where Morrison and Brown were now crouched. Brown was panicking.
Oh my god. Holy crap. We're gonna die. We shouldn't have come out here. Oh my god.
Morrison crouched down next to his colleague, squeezing her hand tightly as he locked eye contact with her.
Lucy, we're going to be okay. Trust me.
Morrison turned and looked back towards the tree line. One of the lights had got so close that Morrison could just about make out the outline of an animal behind it, silhouetted where it was still slightly hidden amongst the trees. He grabbed his radio again.
Control, Morrison, we've encountered some kind of strange species. There are lights in the trees with them. Unsure if they're related to poacher activity at this time. We will...
At that moment, Morrison dropped his radio and dived forwards, narrowly missing an eruption of bark and tree debris as one of the shapes emerged from the woods. He dived forwards, wrapping himself in a fetal position, Brown by his side. A few moments passed and the snorts continued, but they became a lot quieter, more peaceful. Slowly he got to his feet and turned, looking at where the animals had now emerged. What he saw blew his mind.
Wow.
It had become clear that the animals hadn't been mixing with poachers, but that the animals were actually the sources of light themselves. In front of him, Morrison could see a herd of Parasaurolophus, duck-billed hadrosaurs which had been inhabitants on Isla Nublar. The animal's skin was shimmering in the moonlight, radiating beautiful pink and blue hues which lit up the night and stood out brightly against the contrasted woodland behind them. The animals had settled next to the water, clearly more peaceful now they had discovered that the intruders in their home were not hostile.
Lucy, look!
The young lady got up from where she was lying, wiping her cheeks as she walked up to join her partner. In the illuminated area where the parasaur stood, it was clear that she had been crying, but her fear and anxiety was now replaced with awe.
They must be bioluminescent. There was nothing about the files we recovered from Lockwood Manor.
She began to walk closer to them, looking at the animals in more detail. They were stunning, with the bright lights helping to show the intricate patterns which adorned their bodies. They might have been the most beautiful animals that she had ever seen. Morrison bent down to scoop up his radio from where it had fallen, smiling as he watched his colleague interact with the animals.
Control, be advised. Species has been identified as Parasaurolophus. They appear to have some kind of augmentation, making them bioluminescent. Hence the reports of strange lights in the woods. They're relatively harmless, so I don't believe they are anything to do with the missing people. I'd consider this case closed.
Morrison put the radio back on his belt and he smiled to himself. As they dealt with more calls like this, it was becoming clear that this was a new kind of normal for them. It was just another tale from a Jurassic world. You have been listening to Tales from a Jurassic World. Ben Morrison voiced by Jared Ransom. Lucy Brown voiced by Ashli Friel. Score composed and created by Brooks Leibee. Score mixed by Ian Scheffer. Written, created and produced by Tom Jurassic. Tales from a Jurassic World follows the US Fish and Wildlife Service as they adapt to dinosaurs in the wild. Season 1 releasing early 2023.